Hello, welcome to On Air. I'm Klara Syrewicz. Leftist lunatic, right-wing fascist, rotten elite, gender nutjob, incel moron. Post a photo of your pot plant online and you can pick your insult. Hate and groupthink seem to permeate our public and political realms. Today, we'll talk about how they're actually manufactured. Charlie Kirk, according to the New York Times' Ezra Klein, did politics the right way, staging debates and touring universities. Tyler Robinson, the alleged assassin, was, in the words of J.D. Vance and other Republican lawmakers, the product of left-wing networks fostering hate and violence. Earlier this year, right-wing extremism fueled the murder of Minnesota Democrats and their families. This isn't about assigning blame. The question is, can we turn down the hate machine? To answer, we must first recognize why hatred is so profitable. Consider for now a less lethal case. To pin the online hate economy solely on young men with a propensity for physical or psychological violence is to overlook the vocal herds of female trolls. For nearly 10 years, the gossip site Tattle Life dissected celebrities and ordinary people alike, its founder's identity conveniently concealed. Tattle Life is a members-only forum with publicly visible threads visited by 12 million readers monthly and specializing in calling out public figures. In practice, the supposed figures are often modestly known small business owners with a handful of followers. Most targets are women, most users as well. Criticism focuses on parenting and relationships or appearance and weight, including that of children and partners. An obsession with dishonesty frequently veers into the absurd. One mother was accused of not loving her children for declining to post their photos online. And the harassment bleeds offline, devastating people's sources of revenue and their family's safety. Fake reviews, doxing, live location posts, false child abuse reports. It's a horror show. A forum member posted someone's patient notes. Another encouraged suicide. Members even taunted a terminally ill woman on her charity page until her death, then moved on to harass her grieving husband. Tattle Life cashes in through Google Ads, turning abuse into a business. One couple fought back and managed to unmask the site's owner, Sebastian Bond, a content creator turned hate entrepreneur. Court papers say he raked in £1.8 million in assets, now frozen, and £1.6 million in Bitcoin. Despite a fixation on honesty, Tattle Life deleted anyone challenging the prevailing narrative. Users who gave factual corrections or defended victims were blocked because positive views could spark reflection. This is perhaps why Bond at one point shut the door to new members.
They would turn down the volume within a thread because there was a voice of reason in it. As long as he had the same people active on the site, saying the same crazy, hateful, clickbaity stuff, that was great for him. It was a great business model.
The belief that technology improves the world peaked during the Arab Spring when platforms like Facebook and YouTube allowed people to bypass state-controlled media and promised an end to censorship. Back then, the internet was sold as democracy's best friend. But after Cambridge Analytica and now Grok, we all know the world looks very different. Consider this program. You may watch it online, leave a comment. The more comments, the more the algorithm will promote it. Sounds fair. But think about it. The more I trigger outrage and give rise to venomous debates in the comment section, the better. So, theoretically, I am incentivized to post inflammatory content, which, for the record, I have no intention of doing. The problem is that today's public spaces, now largely digital, have a built-in hate-inflating mechanism baked into them. And in those public spaces, certain politicians thrive more than others precisely because hatred is such an incredibly effective tool. As the Rwandan genocide and other modern mass killings demonstrate, hatred of a group does not arise naturally. It is cultivated, the product of a deliberate political trade. It crystallizes when people are persuaded that a group bears responsibility for both past and future crimes. And plenty of politicians are happy to push that story, knowing it will serve their interests. In this marketplace, hate consumers benefit too. They are given a target for their frustration, pain, even past failures, but also implicit permission to discriminate and inflict violence. And this fulfills certain psychological needs, albeit horrible ones. Curiously, the reality of these alleged crimes has little correlation to the level of hatred. Slobodan Milosevic galvanized Serbians with a 1389 battle story, the martyrdom of Prince Lazar. People in the 90s were willing to kill over medieval grudges. History also shows hate often affects the already oppressed. African Americans in 1876, German Jews in 1933, or the Rohingya minority in 2017. It's classic cult and conspiracy playbook. Repeat a lie often enough and make it look like it's widely acknowledged. Today, social media algorithms will do the rest, building echo chambers and an illusion of consensus. Inside that incensed group, some believers will then sacrifice everything to inflict harm on others. They are the shooters, the suicide bombers, the attackers. As Yuval Noah Harari said,
"The hardest thing is to tell the difference between reality and fiction. What is actually happening and what is a story generated by my mind or somebody else's mind and imposed on reality."
Because facts are warped into conspiracies about the deceased or the perpetrator, each act of violence sparks more extremism. Recently, the notion that trans shooters are behind most US attacks has been peddled by leading Republican lawmakers, despite flying in the face of all available evidence. Data shows that public and mass shooters overwhelmingly share 4 traits. They are cisgender male, they are white, they have a history of childhood abuse, and most obviously, they have access to guns. That pattern also holds in Europe, from Norway's Breivik to the perpetrators of this year's school shootings in Austria and Sweden. Although trans people represent under 2% of US adults, they are actually 4 times more likely to be victims of violent crime. So now that a group is singled out for blame, the cycle of vitriol escalates, resulting either in further violence or, at best, Kafkaesque restrictions of free speech. Meanwhile, attempts to fight discrimination also backfire when driven by ideological zealots. What the right calls wokeism and what can be charitably called sermonizing often descends into rage, cancel culture, trigger warnings, and surreal strictures of sensitivity readers. But the most cynical mechanism, of course, is the weaponization of violent events by politicians. One way is to inject esoteric principles onto these real-life problems, offering either mystical justifications or pseudo-scientific gloss to hate and oppressive discriminatory policies. Modern-day Rasputin figures, from Curtis Yarvin to Russia's Aleksander Dugin, serve as such intellectual fig leaf. Let's look at Yarvin. His ideas that universities or the media ought to be dissolved and the Caesar installed into power have found enthusiastic followers among conservatives worldwide. He finds correlations between race and intelligence and somehow manages to marry the idea that progress comes only from visionary elites with political support for Trump, who was elected on an anti-elite platform, but is himself part of the established East Coast elite, which Yarvin despises. So I guess the goalposts keep moving. Regardless, Trump, J.D. Vance, Orban and Elon Musk are fans, and so was Charlie Kirk. Although his memorial resembled a blend of megachurch and political rally, pyrotechnics erupting on stage while his widow was tearing up, Her speech was free of ideological blame. She even forgave the assassin.
Was what Christ did and is what Charlie would do.
But when Trump came on stage, he spoke about elections rigged against him, of radical left lunatics, and he said,
And that's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent, and I don't want the best for them. I'm sorry. I am sorry, Erica. But now Erica can talk to me and the whole group, and maybe they can convince me that that's not right, but I can't stand my opponent.
The rules in George Orwell's 1984 were clear. Not even the smallest deviation of opinion on the most unimportant subject can be tolerated. If the encouragement of political dissent and the courage to be a contrarian is indeed part of Kirk's legacy, the actual practice of it is more reminiscent of Orwell's 2 minutes hate ritual. But hatred is as powerful as it is variable. Before 1945, Franco-German enmity defined Europe. Now it's gone. And every study shows that demand for hatred falls if its consumers interact regularly with the hated group in conditions free from abuse and violence. But do these conditions exist anymore? And where would they be? Online. Anti-establishment narratives sell, both politically and commercially. Though wellness gurus and right-wing pundits don't look like natural allies, they're increasingly speaking the same language as embodied by the US Secretary of Health. And their newfound audiences are listening.
Tylenol during pregnancy can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good.
On Monday, President Trump stood beside Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for what he called a historic announcement on autism.
And they pump so much stuff into those beautiful little babies. It's a disgrace. I don't see it. I think it's very bad. You have a little child, little fragile child, and you get a vat of 80 different vaccines.
However, public health researchers and medical professionals remain skeptical.
The European Medicines Agency, which is giving authorizations and which is putting very strict control to every product that goes to the European market, has not found any evidence linking the use of paracetamol during the pregnancy and autism.
But for the Make America Healthy Again movement, the Monday announcement was a watershed moment. MAHA is a loose coalition of wellness influencers, anti-vaccine activists, and conservative health skeptics. What unites them is distrust of big pharma, of government agencies, of mainstream doctors. Their language blends left and right, yoga mats and MAGA hats.
I'm into natural health. I will never do a vaccine. The fact is that millions of people have been killed from this COVID vaccine. This is a long planned agenda to depopulate the planet, starting with Bill Gates and Fauci.
Still, for millions who feel failed by the medical system, rising costs, long waits, and unregulated corporate practices, the narrative resonates.
I think you should have the choice whether or not to take the shot. I don't think it's right for the corporations to pressure citizens to taking a shot. The FDA has been wrong before. People can look up how many times they've been wrong. There's a long list of drugs that they've had to recall over time. Why is this any different?
And amplifying this message are wellness communities. Once defined by meditation, yoga, and natural living, are now increasingly intersected with conspiracy-driven narratives. Conspirituality, a mix of New Age self-care, skepticism toward institutions, and the rapid spread of pseudoscience online. It's a space where wellness influencers can pivot seamlessly from promoting herbal remedies to amplifying politically charged disinformation, and where consumers seeking autonomy over their health become vulnerable to misleading claims. The rise of conspirituality is more than a cultural quirk. The language of wellness and autonomy has been weaponized to sell snake oil and for the political class to convert distrust into electoral leverage. Whether in the kitchen, on livestream, or the Oval Office, ideas once confined to fringe corners are now shaping both public debate and real-world policy.
Conspirituality, coming soon to a government near you. Thanks for watching and come back next week.